Hello, my friends, and welcome to the Success Mindset with Puyaganyan. Yes, that's me, your host, Industry Hall of Famer, and I'm excited to share with you another episode this week. Thousands have asked for me to make this content available to the public, and now you're getting it. I'm sure, like always, your mind will be blown away, so lean in, pay attention, and let's grow together. Who's ready? Go ahead and kick this off, and I hope everybody's having a absolutely fantastic day. Grab a notebook and pen. The reason I say that is because when it comes to the scope of how we retain and learn information, we really retain about 10% of what we hear. We retain an additional 40 to 50% when we're down taking notes. And then us being able to hear and then reverbalize it actually jumps that up to as high as to 85, 90% of time. So as you look at the different types of knowledge that's out there, yes, so many of us are showing up here today to hear the information and really to do it in our business. But I also want to invite you to step into a place where you hear this information, but you also are ready to turn around and share that information with the people that come into your life and your future brand partners too. So in order for us to be able to, as a collective unit, go out there and create something new, what we need to do is start kind of letting go of some of the old. And the reason I say that is because, one of my favorite mentors, I study him all the time. I was listening to his Challenge to Succeed CD set, which is just a combination of all of his top trainings of Jim Rohn. And in there, he talks about the seasons of life, right? And he talks about how, you go through a spring season. And for a lot of you guys in different areas of your life, you know what spring season feels like. And I'm sure you also know what spring season feels like here inside your business, if you've been there long enough. However, from spring, you transition into summer, and then from summer goes to fall, and fall goes to winter. What I've learned through my travels around the world, Mother Nature tends to not skip winter, right? So the reason I say that is now we're marching into a new season. And my invitation is that you let go of the old and maybe the things that aren't serving you from 2021. Whether you hit your business goals, whether it was you hitting or not hitting your fitness goals, whether it was you being closer or further from your 5-year vision statement, in order for you and I, as human beings, not as human doings, but as human beings, to go out there and to, progress forward, we are going to need to have clarity on our vision. And to talk about those seasons of life, let's relate to a movie for a second. Over the holiday season, I went a little under weather, and I caught myself occupying my mind with movies. And what I found in the number of movies I watched is that movies can't always go amazing. It has to start great, and then it has to get bad. But then what you find is it ends amazing again. And that's kind of the plot of a movie's theme. And I would actually, in my own experience, say that tends to be the revolving movie theme in my own business, in my own relationships, in my own, health and fitness, or in my own goals. Let's look at games for a second. I'm not much of a gamer type of person. I know a large percentage of the population is, but for me, like, I've learned from the games that I played through my childhood that playing games, you have opponents, you have challenges, you have difficulties and levels that are involved. And the more opponents or the more difficult the level gets, that's what tells you oftentimes you're going in the right direction. I don't know if you've ever in a game turned around and you're going down a path and you're like, there's nothing here. That's when you know I should probably turn around, go the other direction. And again, you can look at all the other areas of your life and see the seasons of life play into it. And here's what I know, and for anyone who's my senior already knows as well, it's not easy to do, but in the end, it is completely worth it. You get recognized in public for what it is that you're practicing over and over again in private. Many of you got a chance to witness the Hall of Fame experience that I was a part of last month. And for people outside of this industry, they don't quite understand it or grasp it. But what I often tell them is that, If I was an actor, I'd go to the Academy Awards. If I was a singer, I'd go to the Grammys. In our industry, that's the Academy Awards for us. But when you look back and you see like, all right, the calendars of 10 years, that's not what's portrayed up there. You know, you see a short 30-second testimonial, but what people don't see in that 30-second testimonial is the test after test after test after test that continues to happen. And one thing I've learned through the industry, my experience in startup corporate America type of businesses, and my experience in working for Tony, is that those tests continue to show up. And one thing that I know is that in those tests, in those challenges, in those problems, and I'm going to intertwine all that verbiage today, problems are what makes the world change. Problems are what make you show up to the gym, right? Problems are what make the company break through all barriers and move to that next level. We're all equal, and I consider myself a very spiritual person. We're all equal when it comes to our souls. But what I've learned in this human experience is we're not equal when it comes to the marketplace. Anybody can go learn to do the job of someone who's working at McDonald's, but when you learn to sharpen your axe, when you learn to up-level your skills, what puts you in the position to do more for others than anybody else does. And your energy is everything. Leaders, which is what I see all of you as. If you have children, you're a leader. If you have a subordinate or an employee or a coworker, someone that's involved in your line of work or career, you're a leader. If you've ever had 1, 2, 5 people in your business, you're a leader. So leader or not, your energy inside and outside of this business in your day-to-day life is everything. And I want you to write that down and in capital letters, put down everything. Because every day I look at myself and I'm like, okay, Puya, on a scale of 1 to 10, right? What would you say your average energy is for the month, for the week, for the day, for the hour, for this environment, right? And when you look at a 1 or you look at a 10 to me is like unstoppable, crazy energy, right? A 10 to me is like Winnie the Pooh, right? No. In the show, Winnie the Pooh, it's like a Tigger, just excited, bringing life, bringing enthusiasm, bringing vibrations, right? Bringing frequency into the conversation. So what I'm curious on, because I see us all as equals to each other, where would you see your energy at in the day-to-day life? Are you a 5? Are you a 6? Are you a 7? Maybe who's like a 10, right? Like who's like a 5? It's okay, right? And then who's like more like on the 10 side of life? Like for me, growing up, I was much more to myself, right? I was a lot more shy, odd, I know. So to me, I was at like a 5 and grew to a 6 and grew to a 7. And the reason I'm saying that is because for me, when I looked at the people I wanted to be around and the people I wanted to work with and the people that I wanted to, spend my time with, I didn't see them being at that 5, right? I didn't see me working with a 5 level or visiting with a 5 person or being friends with that. So I had to up level that for myself. So how can we go out there and be creators of our life, not just like the managers of our circumstances, meaning just managing everything that comes day by day, but instead getting into the driver's seat, putting our hands on the steering wheel and saying, I'm in control of this speed limit here. And you have to monitor the garden. And I'm going to talk a lot about garden, and I'm not talking about like gardens of fruits and vegetables, although I can't wait to the day I have like this massive yard with fruits and vegetables and a little garden and stuff. But the reality is the garden also exists in our mind. And in a mind where weeds grow automatically, you always have to stand at guard. Otherwise, the weeds will take over. And that's why associations is so important. I talk to people about, their activities in all different areas of their life. And a lot of times maybe an excuse or an alibi maybe comes up. One being, maybe doing an in-person party of some sort in your business. Now, I understand there's restrictions and everybody has to do what's comfortable for them, right? But the way I would also process that is maybe helping sometimes people step outside their comfort zone. And the reason I say that is because how many people do you know that have recently had COVID, right? An excuse I hear from people, like they can't do the house parties all because the friends, they don't want to approach their friends because there's COVID and those limitations. But the chances are you probably know a large percentage of people who have had or recently got COVID. And the chances are they all got it being out and about around other people, right? They didn't get it being at home, not doing anything. So I assure you, the fear doesn't live so much out there, but sometimes more in here. So how can we focus as we march forward in our business doing the 3 highest paying activities that really don't change? And you and I can make a list of probably 15, maybe 20, probably 50 things that we could do to build this business, such as, posting on social media, joining several Facebook groups, liking, commenting, and putting content in there. When you're doing your errands throughout the day, approaching that person cold market and wanting to share the product, or even better yet, our business with them, right? When you look at that long list of activities over the course of the 100+ years, this home-based industry's been there, what you'll find is that they all boil down to like 3 of the highest paying activities. Number 1 is exposure is everything. And if you look at all business, exposure is everything. If I wanted to do real estate, if I wanted to do mortgage sales or lending, or if I wanted to go out there and start like a fitness company of some sort, everything that I do requires me to expose my product or service to the marketplace. And I assure you, every company on the planet has increased their level of exposure over the course of the last 2 years. So in our home-based business, we have to do the same. And fortunately, it doesn't have to be belly to belly like I like to do. The beauty is we also have access to social media, but we can't let that social media and the fear of it also scare us, all right? The second highest paying activity is fortune being in the follow-up. I just did a recent campaign in one of my customer groups, and we, put out a thing for how many people want samples. And honestly, it was like 40+ samples that we ended up doing. And I immediately knew I can send out 40 samples and I can help those new people send out 40 samples. But where the true success is going to come is in law number 2, which is fortunes in the follow-up. And you may have gotten a lot of exposures and you may have gotten a lot of commercials and branding and marketing out over the course of the last year, but how effective and how A-game was our follow-up. And in a world where there's so much grabbing our attention, the number of 8 follow-ups before you get a sale, honestly, is a little bit higher now as well. The other thing the third law or principle in this industry is going to be to work with the willing, right? And the group that is willing tends to change. But what I believe is so very vital, because in my 15 years in the industry, I assure you, I've done my seasons of life. I've gone through my expansive springs and summers, and I've had my disastrous, oh my gosh, is this going to last winters? But one thing that I know through all those times is you have to be cautious to not let the weeds grow in your mind, because everybody needs a compelling future. Everybody needs something that is pulling them forward versus anchoring them back. And towards the end of last year, and I'm saying this because I actually do this every single year, and multiple times a year actually, is I review my 5-year vision statement. I look at the goals that I wrote down. I look at what were the things that I aspire and want to have, And what it does is it reignites a fire inside of me. And for anybody knows, like, I love business. Having worked for Tony for so long, having been in the minds of so many entrepreneurs, I love everything when it comes to business, traditional, but especially when it comes to the home-based network marketing industry. But you always look at that 5-year vision statement and you ask yourself, what role is this going to play in the achievement and the accomplishment of that? And for me, every single time, that expands my fire, that expands my passion, that expands my fuel to go out there and to stay committed to the goal. And what I find is when you look at that 5-year vision statement and you look at what it is that you want to accomplish in your business, one of the things that I tell people is to look at the activities that you need to do and to do the thing that you fear the most. Because that's surprisingly usually the thing that's going to move you forward the furthest, right? That's what's going to move the needle the most. And another thing is that associations in this entire process is so vitally key. I remember getting on calls with people sometimes, and people are coming and they're doing a brainstorming and they're kind of coming to the table with challenges and things that they're coming up against. And all it takes is one new person to get into that call and to get in front of everyone and to say, hey guys, my name is Nancy. I'm so freaking excited. I just got started. I just threw a party. I got my 4th customer to sign up, and I've got my 2nd party scheduled for next week. What that does is it rejuvenates everybody. Why? Because they see a model of possibility. They see somebody new who's not jaded, who isn't just stuck in doing the mundane. And I can assure you, having been doing the mundane for 15 years in a row, that's exciting to me. But it also rejuvenates the people to think, you know what? I want someone like that in my business too. So in that, it also helps you strengthen your bounce back rate. Because like I said, these seasons of life do happen, but how quickly are you bouncing back when winter happens, when fall happens, or when you have a season or a hiccup or a bump in the road? Because the truth is that's going to happen. What I've always focused on is keeping myself a part of the fire, keeping my closest people around me a part of the fire. And the reason I say that is because if you think of a coal, the coal is burning the hottest when it's smack dab in the fire. That's when it's burning the hottest. You can't even touch it without burning yourself. If you went and you walked up to the fire and you kicked one of the coals off, sure, it's going to bounce away from the fire and it's not going to burn out right away. You're going to grab it and your hand's going to burn. But over a long duration period of time, not part of the fire, guess what's going to happen? It's eventually going to fizzle off. Your teammates, people you work with, they essentially operate the same way. But then so do you and I. It's never that we lack resources. It's that we lack resourcefulness. How can we go out there and put ourselves in front of the newest blood? Because we've heard that old cliche saying, which is the truth of the truth, new blood is the lifeblood of our business. Have you lost a rank? I've lost a rank over my time. But what rings through my brain is that successful people do what unsuccessful people are not willing to do. And I constantly put myself in that mode of how am I going to sacrifice today so that I can have tomorrow what others won't? How can I go out there and put myself in the trenches and do the activities that I'm asking my team to do as well? And again, I love Facebook parties. I love Zoom parties. I feel more were happening last year this time than they were this time, that they are this time this year. But I feel for me, I would never ask my team to do an in-home party unless I was willing to do one myself. And I can confidently say I've done more last year than most people within my business, right? And that keeps me in activity mode. That's like a bicycle, right? And the only way you keep your balance is by keeping in motion. And that's what I do for myself, whether it be sampling, whether it be exposing, whether it be in-home person parties. And afterwards, everyone's like, oh my gosh, next week, let's do dream boards afterwards. And I'm like, yeah, this is up my alley already. And another thing that I think is also important too is that, you may get on here and you may hear this content and you may think to yourself, gosh, this is the same information. And the part that I encourage you to change is yourself, right? Because when I go to a Tony Robbins event, which I've been to probably 25 plus at this point, I hear the same information, but I hear the information different because I hear it, I go take action on it, I change, I evolve, I grow, I come back, I sharpen the axe again. So I hear it differently, I retain it differently, I go back and I apply it all differently. And in those moments, it's where you really start figuring out, like, all right, are you discovering whether you're a leader in a different area of your life or are you a follower? An example I'll give you guys is my fitness. You guys heard my vision statement for the type of body and physique I want to have in 2022, will have in 2022. And in that area, I had to wake up and decide in my circle of associations, am I the leader in this area or am I the follower? And I quickly realized I'm the follower. I'm eating what everybody in my association's eating. I am not working out like my associations aren't working out. And that's when I made a decision that no, I'm going to lead in that area of my life. And that examples for fitness, but I trust that it applies to other areas too. And I know you guys are showing up and you're listening to this. And I know you're doing it because you know you're as strong and as amazing and as a rock star person you are. You need more skills. You need more tools to move to that next level. And that's why I made a decision over the last 60 days with Make the Shift to show up as a student so that I could grow too. And you have to find a way forward, right? In anywhere that you are. Whether you're stuck, whether you're flourishing, whether you're moving backwards, you have to find a way forward. And one thing I know through this association, we will together. But we can't keep beating ourselves up either, right? Because most of us are like amazing human beings, right? We look back at our 2021, we're amazing human beings. We just tend to be harder on ourselves. So a question I have for you guys, okay, on a scale of like 1 to 10, how many, and 1 being low, 10 being like, hi, all right, how many of you are hungry for more, right? And I'm talking about like a true deep desire for more in your business, for more in your finances, for more in your health, in your relationships, just more in life, right? When you look at Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, the 13 things the most successful people on the planet had in common, the number 1 was a white hot burning desire, right? So how can you ignite that fire from within? And if you need that fire for your business, it's time to dream build, because this business changed so many people's lives. And guess what? It can change yours. But the attitude we've all had from the very beginning, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. And for me, my hunger is to serve. This company's put me in a blessed place let's just look back at my first 5 years, 6 years, changed and rocked my life. And thankfully, because I'm a smart, savvy saver, it's allowed me to create so many multiple income streams where I don't have to work hard anymore, but I yet catch myself working my butt harder and longer than ever before. I literally passed out from exhaustion yesterday after 13 coaching calls, right? And again, that's because I've got this inner desire, and what I want for life may not be what you want. And some of you have accomplished some things in your life that your team, they don't want yet. But if you're in a place where you want to dream more and you want more and you can see the possibility for more, what I need you to realize is that out of this year, out of 2022, we are 5.5% over. 5.5% of 2022 done, behind, chapters closed, can't change it. So what we can do is look at that time and say, all right, was I a victim in that situation or in the lack thereof of activity or participation or in everything? Or am I going to march forward as the victor, right? Are you going to march forward focusing more on what it is that you have and where it is that you're going? Or are you going to focus on the things that you're lacking or that you're missing? And the reason I bring that up is because this was a big lesson for me to learn. Just talks of transparent for me to you. You know, I've always been that go for more, achieve more. You know, I thought like, gosh, when I make 10 grand a month, I'm done. And then I was like, no, okay, well, let's just, when you get to 20 grand a month, then we're done. Then it's like, when I get to 50 grand a month, then it went to 100 plus grand a month. And now I'm just like, shit, when I'm at 250K a month or more, like, but I realized that's just the game I like to play with me, right? But it was a realization that if I'm always looking for what's missing and what I don't have, what that does to me is it's going to put me in a place where I can't sustain happiness. How could I ever sustain happiness focusing on what's missing in my business, focusing on what's missing in all the different areas of my life? And that's huge. That was a huge awareness for me, because suffering comes from having expectations that aren't fulfilled. So that's when I said at the beginning of this year, I'm going to trade those expectations for appreciation. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start my day out with 3 gratitudes every day. And I've got the 5-minute journal app on my phone. And many of you have heard me talk about it. Many of you already use it. But like for me, I start out with 3 gratitudes every day. Why? Because that puts me in control. It puts my focus on it puts me on focus of my future, essentially, right? It trades that focus from being in the past and what's maybe back there to what I want to create, what I want to manifest, what I want to attract, what I want to go work towards. Tony always says you can't change the reality of the past. You can change the perception, but you can't keep focused on it. It's like driving a car, looking at the rear view mirror. You're bound to hit something. And that all that does in relation to our business, that just distracts you. It just slows down the bit process. It just is a speed bump in the way. It just slows down that accomplishment, right? Excitement, power, energy is being focused out there. And one thing that I know just in my own experience is like, I've had a lot of experiences, right? I've had a lot of situations where I'm just like, holy crap, what the freak is going down right now? But through all of those books I've read, through all my associations, through my coaches, through my events that I've attended, I've learned you're never given a situation that you don't have the capacity to handle. And then that makes me think of the quote that courageous warriors die 1 death, but cowards die 1,000 deaths. If you think back to the masterclass training that I did several months back, what I said is that if you come to a call with me and then like you're challenged in something and maybe things aren't going the way you want, or your path's gotten harder, I celebrate that for you, right? I celebrate that for you because that puts you in a place of uncomfortability. That puts you in a place where your back's against the wall, where you're like, I need to get creative. I need to find a resourceful way to power and press and push forward. And what you'll find is you get more done in that shorter period of time than you did in the 1 year of feeling totally comfortable. Problems need energy in order to continue living. Yes, come to the table with a problem, but also let's focus on the 5 solutions forward. We're all born with this internal faith, right? We drive down the road, we have one, 2-way road, and the only thing separating us is that freaking painted on line for the road, but yet we have faith that things gonna be fine. We need to carry that same faith in our life. We need to carry that same faith in every area of our life because we're all born with it. And don't do this whole, I know, that's the ego, right? When you step out of that, that gives you a chance to learn and to be receptive and to hear, because the chances are what you're going through, what you've gone through, what you will go through, other people have done it as well. Other people have experienced it too. And when you look at your course and you're like, well, Puya, this was where I wanted to be. And I'm having this chat because I set some New Year's goals last year and I kicked ass at several. There were some I wish I would have done better at. But what I know now is that I'm almost done with whatever goals I had for last year. I'm almost done with them now, but I felt the pressure. I felt my back against the wall. And when you look at pilots and they're taking off from wherever they are to where they want to go, pilots are off course 85% of the time, right? And that's how we live our lives. That's how we live our business. It's not a straight line. There's never anything that Mother Nature shows me that's a straight line. That's why we have to stand at guard and have a checkup from the neck up. That's why we have to monitor the weeds growing in our mind, because the weeds control our energy. And when your energy decreases, so does your mind. That's why you have to have a strong miracle morning. That's why you have to do something that gets yourself into state. That's why you have to feed yourself things that nourish and energize it versus things that bring it down, right? And don't think easier is better. It's not. Complexity is going to make things more difficult. So if at any point you're like, gosh, I just don't know what to do, the one thing that's been consistent in my 15 years in this industry is the 10 core commitments. Those 10 core commitments have always been there. And what I'll say is what's different about them is, I feel like they're a lot softer these days than they were in the past, right? The 10 core commitments, they say 2 exposures a day. But when I used to hear them, when I used to get mentored, when I used to get coached, right? My mentor said, yeah, it's 2 exposures a day, but that's 3 to 5 if you're part-time and 10 if you're full-time, right? I can assure you I'm far from that 10 benchmark today. But when I realized that I was bringing the benchmark down of what I expected from myself, I got a quick wake up when I looked at my goals and I realized, you know what? Change the story, change your life. And that's when I realized it's like an EKG. It's going to go up, it's going to go down. My energy is going to go up, my energy is going to go down. But the one constant thing is my North Star. It is the one thing that I'm always looking at and speaking into existence. So I just caught wind of the time. So I want to be as cognizant and respectful of that as possible. And kind of like closing thoughts, what I do feel is important for me to say is, as you go out there and as you get real with yourself and you look at your vision statement and it's a 5-year vision statement, not a 1 year and check your progress type of thing, right? It's a 5 years from now and then reevaluate that progress. For me, I speak my life into existence, right? I speak my personality, I speak my abundance, my success, my health, my vitality, my love, my contribution constantly into existence. And I said this earlier, but our job as a leader, and I'm not here to train a team of followers. As much as you may want that direction and instruction, I'm going to see you in what you can be. And that's a leader. And if you're new, I still see you that way too. Okay. And you can have multiple purposes in your life. Like, I know so many of you have other passions and other things that you do, but I hope as a result of what you do here, you grow, you become more, you get challenged, and you go out there and you manifest and you just up level what you expect in all areas. And with that, you need energy. All right. Avoiding pain, avoiding the least path of resistance, avoiding the exposure or the follow-up, or avoiding the things that you got to do. That is a survival technique. It's actually a human survival technique, okay? Avoiding pain is natural. But what you need to do in those moments is remind yourself why you're doing it in the first place. Because your team, including yourself, people will do more to avoid pain than they're going to do to gain pleasure. But for us, we have to step outside those comfort zones. I know it's comfortable, but you have to do it. Some of us are making full-time incomes and we're putting in spare time efforts. That leads to one outcome. Some of us are putting in full-time effort and we're still getting spare time, part-time income. I've been there. I've lived and breathed it for so long. And one of my key tips that I would give you in those moments is to remember the pros of what you're doing more than the cons. You're always going to have that pros and cons list, but constantly put the pros in front of you more. Your problem, your biggest problem, my biggest problem is that we think we shouldn't have any problems. And what I've learned to do is reprogram my brain. Thank you, Tony Robbins. Okay. That the way I've reprogrammed it is that problems are gifts, right? The only difference between a problem and a gift is really the meaning that you attach to it, right? I could look at myself having gotten sick and the way it just screwed up a lot of things with my mojo as like, okay, that's a big problem or a challenge or a sign. But instead, I looked at the silver lining and I decided to power forward. And I recently was watching a YouTube and listening to Elon Musk and just trying to figure out what in the world is this guy doing and how is he thinking? And he said, I think it is possible for ordinary people to choose to be extraordinary or to choose to be extraordinary. You guys, you all have within you, we all have within us what we need to go out there and to elevate every aspect in our life. And guess what? When you choose to do that for yourself, in your business, in your health, in all areas, that's gonna be a ripple that plays into other people's lives as well. So I love you. If there's ever anything that I can do to support you along your journey, please, and like I hope the easiest person to ever get a hold of. I look forward to the challenge of helping somebody forward. So let's do one thing that you are going to do moving forward. What is one action step you are going to do to move forward in your business? All right. I love you guys.